It's not every day that a game franchise can just turn it around so quickly with new trailers and new details with their gameplay. This is the story of Sonic Frontiers. Now, first off, we need to talk about how Sonic Frontiers got to this point in the first place and why most Sonic fans are skeptical of their games when they come out. If you think about the Sonic 06 era, that era really made Sonic fans very wary about what is put out next, what is taken into account when Sonic Team creates a new video game within this beloved long-running franchise. Right now, Sonic is in a battle for its soul, and this looks like the best thing that may have came out since Sonic Adventure 2, and I'm not even kidding. I know that's kind of sad to say, or it's kind of weird to say, because we've had some decent Sonic games like Sonic Generations, but when I think back to the games that really hit my heart all the way back home, man, Sonic 2, Sonic Adventure 2 is probably one of the best Sonic games of all time. But it's not only because, it's not really that because that game gives me a lot of nostalgia and it's what a Sonic 3D game should play like and be like most of the time. It's because the story was actually good for Sonic Adventure 2. When I look back, I cared about the music soundtrack. I cared about the characters and what they were going through, and I cared about the gameplay. The gameplay was really fun. We haven't had an adventure style game since Sonic Adventure 2. I don't care what anybody says. People could say, well, Sonic Unleashed was like an adventure style game with the Werehog gameplay, but it just didn't quite work out. And now we have a game like Sonic Frontiers that had a crappy trailer when it first came out, and it's easy to see why people were like, ugh, what is this? Do we really want another bad Sonic game? Did Sonic Team learn from anything? We don't want any gimmicks. We don't want any Werehog gameplay. We don't want any of that shit. And I get why fans are very skeptical. But then, Sonic Frontiers surprised us. Now, with some of the gameplay mechanics for Sonic Frontiers, it's easy to say that this game is meh. But after you see the new trailers, and with this gameplay right here in particular, you can see that the combat actually has some pretty great depth to it. Look at that. We can use it to break off these enemies in multiple accounts, and then you have boss battles where you can use this ring side-loop ability, and it can, I guess, apparently disable enemies or stop them or whatever it could do. We don't know every single detail, but we know it could freeze them, put them in a situation, make the enemies fly up, so you could do an air attack. You can also explore what they call these open world zones. And then they hit us with these cyber zones. And these zones are apparently the zones that you get once you explore the world, you unlock them, and they take you to these different zones that are kind of in their Unleashed kind of phase, like the daytime stages and the Sonic Adventure Generations 3D stages, where you get to go through all these different obstacles at high speeds. You can easily avoid them by pressing R1 or L1 or whatever console you're playing on, and it never loses momentum. Not only that, the other thing that's turning Sonic Frontiers around is its style. The reason why I say Sonic Frontiers feels like another adventure game is because the sense of style in the presentation of this adventure. Not at one point has Sonic Frontiers felt like the past several entries, where they all felt like they weren't from the Sonic franchise. They were sort of like spin-offs. Sonic Unleashed feels like a spin-off. Sonic Generations feels like a spin-off. As much as I love that game, it feels like a spin-off. All these other games like Sonic Colors, even it obviously is a spin-off. Yes, it may still have Eggman as the main villain in them, but they're spin-offs in terms of like they don't feel like a true Sonic story. And for the first time in a long time, Sonic Frontiers feels like a Sonic game that's for Sonic. Like, this is an adventure without any bullshit gimmicks, with our character going on this adventure to save the world in this mysterious new way. The soundtrack too gives you the vibes of the adventure games, like Vandalized by One OK Rock. Gives me the same feeling that Live and Learn gave me when I was fighting the biohazard monster in space with Sonic and Shadow. These are things that we gotta take into account and why this is probably going to be one of the best Sonic games ever. But not only that, the world at first seemed like a bland Unreal Engine gloss of paint on the Sonic formula as far as the open world, but then they showed us a glider, then they showed us these rails that we could traverse, then they showed us more loops you could traverse, and then they showed us the cyber stages, and then after the cyber stages they showed us what type of combat we have. I hope there's a skill tree as well, because that'll make the game even more exciting. Right now, Sonic has figured out a way to pave the road in a way that I've never seen a game do before. It's been a long time since I've seen a game that had bad controversy at first because of its showing, and then after it showed more and more and more, public sentiment changed drastically in the right direction. And that's what we're seeing for the first time with Sonic Frontiers. I was very wrong with this game. Just like many other fans, like I pointed out before, I made fun of the combat. I made fun of the aesthetic. I made fun of what the game might be without knowing all the details. And in this industry, it's easy for us as gamers to judge a game before it comes out because we've gotten so many crappy title releases, especially from Sonic Team. And then also as the gaming industry as a large, we've had big brands, big companies that make great games that just completely threw us off. You know, like CD Projekt, they made The Witcher, and then they gave us Cyberpunk, an unfinished mess. Granted, they fixed it later, but that's where the public sentiment is. Gamers automatically assume if the game doesn't show the best at the front of the time, at the beginning, then it's a problem. And maybe we should be a little bit more open-hearted. I know that's a reference to Sonic Adventure 1, one of my favorite songs. But yeah, open your heart, it's gonna be alright. Yeah, let's open our hearts. Let's open our hearts a little bit more. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think. Do you think we were too harsh on Sonic Frontiers? I think so. And I will see you in the next one.